Hello. Mm, someday I'm gonna have to figure out how to arrange these things so that you can. Well, the cameras are just not in good spots. That's how to start Wednesday morning is to look up and go. I've been doing this now for years. I think, several years now, and my camera guy, or guy generically, my camera person, just can't get things just right. Although I do have to say one thing was improved. This cord here, this used to just dangle down in front of things, and somebody moved it somehow. I don't know, so it's not in the way anymore. I guess that's an improvement. So today is the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. That goes back to the 1960s, I think, television show about various sports. I know the agony of defeat was somebody coming down a ski jump and just missing, falling down right at the end of the ski jump and hitting the corner of it and flailing and just horrible. They never show anything that's fatal, but I think that person was hurt from that. That was the agony of defeat. And of course, there's always then the lame pun joke, like the agony of the feet from running a long way. It's going to be that kind of day, I think. If I start resorting to that, what I'm really trying to do is not find out. I'm trying to not find out if it is the thrill of victory, agony of defeat, because yesterday I painted the windshield. There it is. That's it. That's the whole thing right there of what's left of the Porco Rosso plane is this little bit. I painted the inside of it on this side and the outside of it here. And you can see it's pretty impressive, once again, about how much paint gets wasted. All that's painted on here are tiny little edges, which hopefully you'll see when I unmask it, when I finally get around to doing it, because I don't want to see how it turned out. But I mean, all of this red, this cardboard was not red, but just tiny little bits. So I know if I had an airbrush, there would be, well, I do have an airbrush. If I know how to use an airbrush, I would have wasted somewhat less paint, but probably half as much, because I could have focused it a little better than the spray can, which sprays out. But I don't use an airbrush because I don't know how. I've been a failure. Well, I can't say I would have wasted less paint if I had used an airbrush, because what I found when I did it is you have to put paint into this little cup, which is either, just sort of slipped on or screwed on, depending on how expensive your airbrush is. We have the first one I got, it was just held on by friction, and that was fun because, there was a glass bottle full of solvent for cleaning, and it didn't hold, and it fell off and it broke, and then I bought another one, and it fell off and it broke, kind of like the castle in the swamp in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Eventually, it didn't fall off and break because I just stopped using it. But the paint was supposed to go into this tiny little metal cup, actually about this big, that it held on by friction. So the paint has to go into that, and then it sprays out. And it's not just that, it wastes paint by spraying parts that aren't the part, but the inside of the cup and the inside of the airbrush all accumulate paint too, that doesn't paint the surface. It just has to be cleaned away. Well, I don't know. I wasn't able to use the airbrush without making a hideous mess. And I gave up. But if any of you out there plan to do modeling, or are doing modeling, it really is good. It's a good investment to get a good quality airbrush, and then you need to get a compressor, to make the air for the airbrush, which can be loud. We put ours on a piece of foam rubber to absorb the vibration and some of the sound. But yeah, you really should do that if you're going to be doing modeling, and not watching this show to learn how, but watching this stream to just see an old guy do his best. That's one of the things you should invest in if you're going to build more than like 3 models in your life, is to invest in an airbrush and learn how to use it, because you can do a whole lot of really cool, nice painting that you can't do with a brush, because the brush doesn't leave brush marks. Well, I guess it kind of does. I'm going to wander off. I'm really doing my best to not get to this. What in the heck? I have no idea what that is or why. I don't know what you're seeing. I don't know what HP Smart is. Probably some sort of AI thing. It's probably some sort of AI attempt to take over my stream. That's what I think it was. It calls HP Smart. So yeah, you just saw. I don't know if that's what you saw on the stream or not, but it popped up and blanked out everything on my monitor and said, "Do I want HP Smart to make changes to my computer?" And I just told it no, and it went away. But we'll see. We'll see just how smart and intrusive it is. But that caused me to lose my train of thought, which probably isn't too surprising. So I'll have to come up with another way of digressing. I'm just anxious about this. It's a tiny, tiny little piece of plastic, but underneath all this red is tape, and underneath the tape is clear plastic, and this is the windshield for the Savoia S.21. And it is, in fact, the very last piece that needed to be painted for the model to be complete. And I put it off partly because I kept forgetting about it, and partly because, it's just, if it didn't work, it's going to be a problem. So I'm still going to put off unmasking this and seeing what's underneath it for a little while, because there's something else I want to do. Oh, and this isn't it. This is a maxi version of my minifig from the Dungeons and Dragons show that Dyson Dungeons puts on, because Dyson Dungeons is about Dungeons and Dragons, and we put on an amazing Dungeons and Dragons show. And this is me, Seth Ralph, the Furbog Fighter, except it's not the minifig version of me. This is the level 1 minifig version of me. So there's one like this size. Okay, and I got this as a Christmas gift, for like a desk display, and I've been painting it. And so far, I think the hair and the beard came out okay. The face is really pretty lifeless. So I need to ask Nicole, the changeling druid, Zoria Ansul, who's a real artist, about what to do about that. I'm probably not going to be working on this today, because there's some things I need to figure out. Like you can see that I painted some brown on here. Those are supposed to be leather, and it goes under the armor, but it's not entirely clear what part is the armor and what part is leather, and I need to get some ideas about that. And then there's a weird thing with the cloak that I will need to work on too. So get this out of the way. But before I go on to this, I'm going to go back to, this is the fuselage. Okay. This windscreen goes here. And then here in this other little hole is the gun sight. And this is kind of a weird construction, but the gun sight actually is nothing more than just a metal rod. Okay. That goes through the windscreen. And the pilot is supposed to just look, without poking their head on it and hurting themselves. They're supposed to look along it. There's tiny little holes here. That's my camera guy, my camera person. Camera person, can you zoom in on this? Oh, nicely done. See those tiny little holes? This one here is there's a little bitty prong on the bottom of the windscreen that's basically just a positioning thing that fits in there. And then this is supposed to go here. Yeah. And the reason I'm doing this right now is the inside of this. Yeah, okay. That's kind of what I thought, is that this test fitting this. So it doesn't go in very far. But this thing here, yeah, this part here, the fuselage, once the wings and everything are installed, actually lifts off the bottom of the fuselage, which has interior detail. Okay, so when you take this off, flip it over, you can see inside of the plane. Well, the inside of the plane, these are the things when building a model, it's like, the old joke of how to disarm a bomb. It's like, cut the red wire, but first, okay. Well, there's been several instances of that but first sort of thing as I've been building this, where if I do it this way, it won't work. I have to reverse the order of things. Well, these holes shouldn't show. Okay. When you take this off, there shouldn't be little holes there. So what I'm going to do is, in order to waste more time before I take the masking tape off of the windshield to see if I've got a beautifully done red frame around pristine, clear plastic, okay, or whether I've just got red paint in places where I don't want it and not where I do, before I do that and find out if it's a victory or a defeat, I'm actually going to fill these little holes in so that I can put a little bit of paint on them so that they don't just look like holes for no reason. And I'm going to use this, which is actually spackling compound for filling holes in walls. And I'm using this because it's fairly easy to use. It doesn't mar the paint, or at least it shouldn't. And it dries pretty quickly, so I'll be able to paint this sooner than later. Here's some. I just need infinitesimal little bits of this. Yeah, that's not working. What a surprise. that down so it doesn't. You'll still be able to see that there's a little round thing there. I mean, this isn't going to be invisible, but it won't be a hole. It'll look like maybe something was welded on, or something like that. Okay. Now what I need to do is get rid of the excess. So pink exists only on the hole. Would I maybe a little bit of this? That works. See, now there's this tiny little bit of pink there. Here, put things away. Keep your work surface clean. I made 2 New Year's resolutions. Not dropping things should have been one. Should have been one, but it isn't. Hi, Enforcer. Thanks for coming back. Enforcer Journal had been, is a really good participant in this stream, and then I was gone for like almost a month. This a long time, so it's really cool to have them back. Oh yeah, I should. I've got some liquid to drink here, and I probably should stretch. So what this will do when I paint over that with the desert tan is that it will like there's not holes there anymore, which is what I want. I want there to not be holes there. So that'll dry in a while. Paint that before I put the wing on. Well, I'm glad that you decided to be social today, but sometimes that does happen. You just, yeah, and then you don't know why, but it's like, whatever. I just don't feel like it. And then I've been gone for a while. What did you miss? Well, I don't know. What you've missed is me spending how much time? Almost 15, 20 minutes not unmasking the windshield. Okay. At some point here, fairly soon, I'm going to have to go ahead and do that because, to be honest, that's all that's left to build the model is to get this done. Well, those little holes I filled in, I have to paint those. So I probably should wait. I have to wait like a half hour before I do that. It's like going in swimming after eating a meal or something, right? And don't go in swimming for at least a half hour. I don't know why that was. It was never a problem for me because I couldn't swim. Oh, a plane. Yep, I'm working on a plane. Let me show you how this is going because I'm almost done with it. There is a chance. There's actually a chance, believe it or not, that I might finish it today. Ta-da. So this is the fuselage. I got the stripes painted. That's not decaled. It's painted on the green and white. I got the horizontal stabilizer put on, and I was just filling in these little tiny holes from the inside so that they don't show. I need to touch those up with some paint in a little bit and get the dust off of it. And I got the wing done. So the villain's game finished, kind of, and then this is the wing. The floats are on. It's everywhere, even if I keep it covered. And this is going to attach here, like that. Okay, and then the engine goes on top of that. So it's nearly done. I haven't done I haven't attached the wing, and then of course not the engine because the windshield has to go there and the gun sight has to go there. And as I was almost putting this on, as I was almost tempted to attach it, I realized, not suddenly, it just was like I realized that if I did that, I couldn't get the windshield and the gun sight. I couldn't get them attached underneath the wing because it covers it up. And then the inside of the fuselage has been finished for a while, and this sets on top of it. Okay, here's the thing. This isn't working. As you can see, it didn't attach. I need to reattach that. I used contact cement, which had a real advantage, but it's not holding. So here's another way I can take some time before I unmask the windshield. Well, that's interesting. It's really kind of surprising that you can't think of anything interesting because you are just a really creative person. You could ask your players what they would like to do next. But was the game fun? Did the players all have a really good time? That's the most important thing. Okay, I need to use this, which I prefer not to. But in this case, there really isn't much of a choice. Because the contact cement just didn't hold up. Okay. Think you're burned out? I don't believe that's true. That's not very helpful, though. Is, hey, what would you like to do next? Well, I don't know, whatever you want. It's like, no, I'm asking you, what would you like to do next? Whatever you want. It's like, just, no, you're missing the point. I'm asking you. Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. That what they would want would be something that would go on for a long time. Okay, I'm not applying it directly to the model because even though this has that tiny little pinpoint applicator, it's not always that pinpointy. It's hard to tell if I'm getting enough on there or not. I don't really know until I attempt to adhere it. Okay, well, it was okay. I mean, it's sticking, so I need to just align it. Hopefully, this cement won't be as floppy as the other. It is nicely giving me. This is why I don't use CA glue, because that would have set up and I wouldn't have been able to make these little adjustments to it. So, what what are you must have some ideas about a long-standing game. What about your the one with this the Laputa like one where there's a city in the clouds, kind of. I think that's good enough. If this that's leave it alone time. That's don't mess with it time, and hopefully it will stay where it is. Hmm. So okay, so you think that you're more of a like a 10, 15 session sort of DM as opposed to years? Is that because you don't feel like a long running game DM? Is that because you don't think you want to run one for that long? That you'd like run out of ideas or get bored or really that you just don't want to make a commitment for that long time? Just curious. Well, I'm still wasting time. I'm looking at this and saying, I don't want to know what's under there. Oh, but I have to. Okay. I am now going to start taking the tape off of this and see what I've got. At some point, it just needs to be done. You know. There. What is this? This is trash. Yeah, just it's just if you hold on just a second. I'm trying to clean up. New Year's resolution 1: keep your work surface clean. Here. You can see here. You can see how off camera there, how it's not okay. And under here, there's more mess. It's like, why didn't I just put these things away? And then good camera work there. Mm-hmm. Well done. Yeah. See, that's the thing is you could get bored. And the other thing about a long-term game is that maybe some of the other players could get bored, and then you're planning like 40, 50 sessions of the game and you get 30 into it and somebody wanders off or whatever. I guess what you need are like chapters, right? Or like a Star Trek series where it kind of flows along. That one episode leads to the other, but there's a lot of independence as well. I don't know. I'm giving advice to about something I know nothing about because I've never been a DM. Yeah, so I really can't say. But it does seem like maybe it's possible to do something like well, I was about to say something and then got distracted. It was a real squirrel moment. It's I don't know if it's possible to do something like start a game that would maybe run 15, 20 sessions and then in Skyhold they decided to go into space. What happened there? Okay. I was looking for the tweezers, right? But when I put the tweezers away, my camera guy is going to show you how this works. When I put the tweezers away, they go here in this little thing there, and then I took them out and I misplaced them, and they were right there under a paper towel. This is going to be pretty interesting. It's like things are getting misplaced or displaced or things like that. Okay. I'm going to try to take the tape off. I'm doing the inside first. And I'm using a toothpick to pry up the corner because I don't want to scratch the plastic underneath. And then what I'm attempting to do is to grab the little corner of the tape with the tweezers. And there. Now I've got a tiny little piece of tape with red paint on it. I expected it to be a little better than that. This is probably more boring than putting the tape on. Okay, well, that looks okay. The sides here. I really hope this turns out okay, because then I can finish the Savoia model, and that'll be really neat. And I can probably after that, well, there's a couple things I can do if this actually works today. Okay, there's tape here. Let me show you. With the tape debris here, so you can see that I'm taking little bits of bloody looking tape off. The one thing, though, I have to say is that your group is together again, because I know that it wasn't that terribly long ago that you weren't sure if the group would actually get back together or not and play together. They took off and they just went into the astral sea, and then what? Then what do you do with that? Oh, okay, well, that's not a disaster. So far, this has been not a disaster. Let's see what happens on this side. It's mostly okay. What is this, though? Well, that's just debris. Okay, this is. I'm going to declare this thrill of victory. Okay, it's not perfect. I can see an imperfection here, like right along here for some reason. I don't know if that's on the inside or the outside. Less than perfect line. Once this is installed, and I think it's on the inside. I'm going to try to take that off. I'm going to have to put my head magnifiers on because I can't quite see what the issue is there. But it's enough to it's enough of an imperfection that it looks like it's a problem. It looks like I'm actually be able to fix that. It looks on the other side now. That looks okay. Well, it's really interesting, And the paint color, there isn't any paint on the edge here. Okay, but it looks red because it's picking up And around here, there's no paint on that, but it's picking up the paint from the edge and surface clean. Well, if you want them, sometimes a DM can be really directive, and there's nothing I don't think wrong with that. Like if the players just do something that just takes it, okay, that works. Wasn't sure if it would fit through the hole, but at least it does. Like if they go off in a direction that just messes things up, you maybe let them play around for a couple of sessions. I mean, you can do that. Let them play around for a couple of sessions. Maybe run into, they could run into like an angel or a demon or a godlike creature or something. Basically, you're manipulating the game. You have to be manipulating the game so that they can have fun for a couple of sessions, but then they regret their decision, okay? Because they would die, basically, is that if they don't go back, they don't have a choice. It's either you destroy yourselves or you go back, or maybe even, maybe you can even manipulate time and space and just they could run into an entity like a whirlpool, like a space whirlpool or something. I'm just throwing out ideas. I don't know if any of this would work or not. And then it just gets sucked in and sent back. Okay. It's like, whoa, what the heck happened? It's like, well, you just got sucked in and sent back. And then when they get back, give them something to do that they have to do. Just something. But I think it's okay, if players, because players can just go off the rails, is that at some point you need to bring them back to reality, so to speak. And that, I think that's okay to do that. I forget what color this is supposed to be. Yellow something, I think. Desert yellow. Doing this kind of touch-up is always a little bit risky, but I didn't want those holes to show on the inside, so doing this. But that's just a thought, is that, it's just fine for your players to go off the rails. Why not? That's part of the fun. But if it makes the DM's job impossible, then the game can't go forward. And if the game can't go forward, they can't have fun with it. So they need to understand that, there are consequences to their actions. And in this case, the consequences that they get sucked into a giant multi-dimensional wormhole and get sent back. And if they say, well, we're going to do it again, you can just keep doing that back and forth until they start to behave. I want a soft brush, not a real big one though, because I'm just doing these tiny little spots. Yeah, I mean, they should explore, but you could even instead of sending them back to where they started, you could even just literally pick a random location. Get out your D100 or something. As a DM, I'm just suggesting this, so that if they go into, you don't call it a wormhole because that's just too trite. a Scylla and Charybdis kind of thing, right? If they get stuck in that, then they could come out at a random location in your world if that isn't too disruptive. And you don't have to just like make up a random location. You could actually be random about it. Okay. There's a spot here that's bothered me for some time that I think I might try to touch up. As well. So it's something I do is I just bump into stuff. I did it again. My finger. That's going to look better. There. Once that dries and matches, it should be virtually invisible. Not virtually invisible. I mean, like actually essentially invisible. Shouldn't be able to see it. At least not very much. Just a little indentation there. But that's different than having a hole. Yeah, this touching, the little touches up I did back here. I'm glad I did that. That's better. All right, I think I got that. But I think as a DM, you have godlike powers over the game. So why not use them? Back here. Clean the brush. This is actually a pretty good brush. There are half as many bristles on this now as there were when it started, which in some ways is actually okay. It's a finer brush, but what happened? This happens. There's just a couple of my brushes to which this has not happened, but it gets like rogue bristles that just stick out. I don't know if you can zoom in on this, camera person. Zoom, but you can see like here. See the where it goes down and there's this little blob. Those used to be bristles, but they splayed out. Good. Yeah, it's not on camera. Yeah, but they splayed out and I couldn't get them back. Oh, eating is a good thing. I should probably do that later today. I might try that. I meant that a little bit cynically, but I'm usually not very hungry in the morning, so I don't have a really big breakfast. Like it's like a mug of coffee. What are you looking at? You're looking at a stain here. Here, look at that. Those are the parts that need to go on. And then I get busy doing things. And then sometimes just time passes and all of a sudden it's early afternoon and mid-afternoon almost, and I haven't eaten anything and I'm feeling kind of peckish with low blood sugar. But then I say, well, I'm not going to eat a meal now because I'll be having the evening meal. Oh yeah, we could get into that. Evening meal, dinner or supper, one of those. And then I'll be having that, and I don't I want to be hungry for that. So if I eat a big meal now, then I won't be, and that wouldn't work out. And then I sometimes just don't eat a lunch even, and then I get grumpy and start talking in circles like I am now. Eating lunch is a good thing. Um, well, I guess the paint that I just put on, just the paint that I just painted here, um, is on the other side. I bumped it again. Nice. It was really nicely oriented and located. Man. And now it's not. And now it's not holding. Okay. What that was an example of just smashing into something. Just it's not holding. There we go. Got to try again. Yeah, maybe CA glue would have been a good idea. What this is it's not a propeller that. Yeah, I mean it's just a thought, but there are ways you could have like a portal or a whirlpool or an angry god that goes Bzzzt, you cannot be here kind of thing. Make it all dramatic. Maybe even have a little bit of a fight where they get to be mostly dead before the god says be gone and banishes them. Just trying to think of different ways that the DM can uh, basically control the narrative and get them out of where you don't want them. Let them have fun there for a while. Ole Brogger. Well, actually, you haven't been around for a while, and I was getting to be worried about that. So it's great to see you again. And you haven't missed anything because I was gone again for like three full weeks. So you got a new job. That's really good news. Is it a nice job? Do you like it? That's an important thing. Well, the important thing is you've got a job so that you know you're getting income, and that's a cool thing to have. Um, but yeah, your timing was pretty good because I was gone for 3 weeks on another trip. That travel. I'm not. I'm not extremely fond of being away from home all the time. My wife does. She likes to be away a lot, traveling all the time. But I just got back last week, and so Monday was the first stream in a long time. So I'm glad you're doing all right. I'm really happy about that. Oh, and Enforcer Hound, maybe you can help them out as well. Oh, okay. Well, what can you say? Um, you're doing something that you're good at, you're making more money, and you're driving less. It turned out that was a good thing, that it worked out really well for you. That's really great. I'm glad to hear that went well. No, I haven't. Well, having been traveling for like the last 3 weeks or so, I haven't been on Twitch or Discord. Are you still doing your stream? Oh, enforcer. Oh, I like that. I like that. It's just like the most casual, random thing ever. Oh, that yes. Well, good. I'll have to catch up with that. I'll have to catch up because just got back last week Thursday, very late, and I didn't stop being jet lagged until really yesterday. So I'll try to catch up with it. So Enforcer, I like that idea. So instead of like getting into a big thing with Scylla and Charybdis and trying to stay away from it, or even a battle, it's just that they uh, they just get poofed, like you said. It would be even better if there was just a poof, right? Like a little cloud of like violet or pink smoke that goes poof very quietly. Just boop. Like, what are you bothering me? What is this annoyance? It's like a buzzing, like a little buzzing insect, right? When you're trying to sleep. Okay. But then, yeah, and then just have them come up in a random place, and you can actually use your dice, your D20 or D100, to determine what the random place is. So maybe you wouldn't even know. And that way they get to explore different parts of your world um, that they wouldn't have gone to otherwise. Mm-hmm. And then all of your players are going, a big WTF with that. I I need a piece of paper like this. I'm just going to tear one off. This is my color chart, which I'm not going to need anymore when I'm done with the minifig. But I have to reapply the cement. I don't know if this is going to hold. The contact cement actually worked. I think the contact cement actually worked better. I don't want to put too much on because then I'll just have a big glob. I'm annoyed. I am annoyed by how this didn't work. Great. The lid on the contact cement is not turning. And I had a pair of pliers out. I know I put a pair. There they are. I put them away, so I couldn't find them. I'm getting really close to finishing the Savoia. This is a fuselage. Let me show off the wing. This is the wing. I almost made a huge mistake on the wing. Um, the mistake was not deciding to paint. I mean, I decided to paint the stripes on instead of using the decals, and I think they came out okay. They look okay. There's a little white spot there. I'm not going to try to red spot. I'm not going to try to fix that. But what I almost did is I almost painted them on the top as well. I thought they'd look good on the top, but then I checked the model in the box, and I actually checked the animation of Porco Rosso, and the stripes are only on the bottom of the wings. So I caught that just. I mean, I actually was taping it. I had it taped up, ready to spray paint it, and I caught it just in time. I got the floats on. I thought the lines on. I think the painting on the lines on the floats actually came out pretty well. So I'm going to give so far this model. I'm going to say I did A work on this, kind of A minus, because there's a couple of little flaws, like this little red spot here, and then there's a flaw in the paint on the bottom of this. But for the most part, I think it's coming out really quite well. And I made a decision about the display too. And the decision is that I am not going to put this on the bottom for the display purposes. I'm going to actually keep it separate so that because I'm not going to keep taking it on and off. But I'll do that later. And I just need to get this to stick. It was sticking, and then it stopped sticking because I kept bumping it. What I really need to do is not so much get it to stick as to, once it's sticking, not keep bumping it. Okay, contact cement should just set for a while before putting them together. Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just that. I think you might have something going there, and then you can get your players back on track. Okay, meaning back onto the way you want them to be playing. Why not? And actually, if you put them in a random place in your universe, because you've already got the thing designed, if you put them in a random place, um, they'll be forced to explore. It might just turn out to be fun, and hopefully they would appreciate what you did, and not be kind of annoyed by it, but really just appreciate how clever it was. Okay, I haven't used this yet, so let's see. This is supposedly the world's best canopy cement, which means that it's supposed to hold, okay, and not mar the surface and dry clear. And I'm going to try it on this because it is a canopy. Hopefully it will actually hold, unlike this little propeller thing that is failing to hold. If I can get it actually to even work. Great. Well, that's a choice. That's something you'll have to decide. I mean, maybe you could just let them. Jeez. Okay, I have to go down and get that before I lose it. A tiny piece of wire. Yeah. Actually, pick up. Okay. This comes with cement. It's the probe that you use to unblock the blockage when the cement dries in the little tube thing. Thanks for joining in, Enforcer. I'm glad things are going okay and that you've got some ideas about what to do with the game. Have fun. Here I am. I'm sparingly applying this to the canopy. I'm sparingly applying it. Actually be doing some good. Let's find out. Yeah, eye-hand coordination here. This becomes much more challenging at a certain age. There, that's where it goes. Hopefully, whatever that is that I just put on there will keep it in place. Okay, that looks okay. Just stay put. And then there's the gun sight. Okay, this is a thing. I use the contact cement again. This model, it just, there's no, any little contact points, you know, somehow or other, it's supposed to adhere to these infinitesimal, tiny little contact points. And I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like doing this with like tube cement. Imagining a nightmare. Now, what do I do with this? Yes, I set it down and hope it doesn't stick to the paper. I'm going to put this on. This contact cement can sit for like 2 hours and still work. At least that's what it says on this. Permanent bond on contact. Okay, so okay, the long part of this goes through this gap in the windshield, and then that little point there goes into that little hole there. That seems like an impossible thing to do. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens. I'm actually going to use tweezers for this because I can't get my fingers in there. There, it goes there like that. That's what it's supposed to be. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. Is it goes there, and then it's hopefully the contact cement. There was enough there to have it stick, not fall out. And then this for the third time. Attach this for the third time. And then make another effort to not bang into it with my fingers. Yeah, fingers work, right? Good working. it's sticking, but it kind of flops around. What that is the airspeed indicator. And it's got a little propeller on it. And it's just free spinning. It doesn't have a motor or anything. So the movement through the air makes that little propeller spin. Okay. And the speed at which it spins is just a mechanical connection in between there. Will give you an airspeed indication. And it's interesting that technology it's not used anymore. They have this thing called a pitot tube, P-I-T-O-T, which is just the air pushes into the tube, and the air pressure, I think, gives rise to the airspeed indication. But in World War II, the Germans had a rocket-powered plane. What was it, an Me-163? I think it was. It was really stubby. It had a rocket engine. It only had enough fuel to last like a minute and a half or something. And the idea was that if bombers were coming, that it would rise up really fast. It went like 500 or 600 miles an hour. It was even faster than the Me-262. That it went up, shot its weapons. And the intent was for it to shoot down bombers. And then, what is that? Now there's a spot on there that I don't like, but I can't do anything about that. And then it then became unpowered. The rocket fuel came off and had to glide back down. It became extremely vulnerable at that point, okay, because it had no power, and it was just gliding back down. But before that, it was faster than anything. Not extremely maneuverable, but it's kind of like an anti-aircraft missile with a pilot in it. That's how its guidance system. It wasn't a one-way trip. It was meant to come back down and be reused. But as I said, when it's gliding back down, it got slower and slower. And if the fighter followed it down, it could shoot it down then. But the before I got distracted by talking about what it was, and on the very, very front of it, on the nose of the rocket plane is one of these. There's a tiny little propeller on it. So the docent who was leading the tour pointed that out and said, every once in a while someone says, how could it go so fast with such a tiny little propeller? Chuckle, 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 because, the people who knew what it was were chuckled at the ignorance of the person who asked the question. That's what you do. I guess that wasn't very nice. But anyway, the whole point is that this kind of technology was used even to determine the airspeed of a rocket plane that could go almost 600 miles an hour. And this tiny little propeller, just about the same scale size as that, stuck to the nose of the rocket plane. Okay, well, these parts are in place. If they don't fall off, it's okay, and it's time. How am I doing on time anyway? Really? It's only 11:17. It feels like I've been doing this now for 3 hours. I was afraid I wouldn't finish it before the stream ran out, but it looks like it looks like I had not been very successful at wasting time today. It's time to put the wing on. I'm just going to keep using this contact cement. It's working okay. They're painted surfaces. This other cement just isn't gripping when the surfaces are painted, but this does. It's been okay every place I've used it so far. I test fit this so I know that it actually works. It doesn't matter what order I go in. What I have to do is be careful of these strings. I thought they were fairly benign. They're not. I've got a flaw on the bottom of one of the horizontal stabilizers from one of these little stringy things of the cement. It's like using tube cement now. It's really kind of annoying. But it's still the most effective adhesive I've found for my skill level of not having much skill in terms of both placement of the piece. It's pretty hilarious, actually. I don't know if you can really see it, but there are 4 openings here. 3 of them are round, and one is a kind of a slot. Okay. And believe it or not, they had so little faith in the modelers that apparently, in order to make sure that you got the wing on right, one slot there would keep the modeler from putting the wing on backward. I suppose that's the only reason why. Okay. Now this is just going to set for a little bit. They actually recommend that reading this incredibly tiny high strength bonds, no clamps needed. That's good. Shake well before use. I haven't been shaking it. Maybe that's the problem. No, the plastic. What happens with the plastic cement, and I learned this the hard way when I was a kid, and even more recently, is that it really does not work with painted surfaces. What it does, though, is it dissolves the paint. It makes a. That's the best description I can give it. A cement paint gloop that will spread around, and if it dissolves enough of the paint away, it's a direct plastic to plastic contact. But I found that it really doesn't work that well unless it's just a raw plastic surface. So it's just fine, like putting a wing together like this, okay, where the plastic pieces are attached to each other before they're even primed. Okay, so along the edges here, it works okay for that. It welds it together. But for the most part, these pieces need to be primed and painted, and then you get painted surfaces. So unless you scratch the paint away, which has its own problems, it doesn't work. And so I've just been finding that. That's why I've ended up using the contact cement. And That's why a lot of modelers will use CA, because it does the same thing. It works with the painted surfaces. The main difference for me is that CA just it acts too quickly. Okay, it sets up too fast for me. I don't always get the pieces in the right place, and they have to be adjusted. And CA doesn't give me enough time to do that, and this does. And usually it holds pretty well. Okay, usually it holds pretty well. There's just been a couple of times and places where it's been a problem. This canopy cement seems to have worked okay. The canopy isn't falling off. I haven't pried on it either, though. But then this stuff I have to reserve for raw plastic to raw plastic. That's really about the only way it will hold well. And I've got two kinds of it. I've got this and the brush-on kind, and they're different. This was a little bit more weldy, okay, more plastic melty than this one. But there that is. Well, Ole, thanks for dropping in. Congratulations on getting your new job. I will be back again on Friday at more or less 10 o'clock, and hopefully you can join in then too. That would be great. I'm looking forward to it. And it was really good to see you again, and I'm glad you didn't miss anything on this stream because you've been busy, because nothing happened on this stream because I didn't have it for almost a month. Okay, I'm going to put the wing on pretty soon, and then let that set for just a bit, and then I will attach the engine mounting to the top of the wing, and then I'm going to show it off because it'll be done. That's so weird. Like the submarine was done. It was just this weird feeling. It just went, oh, now it's done. Now what? Here, you're looking at this blank thing. Here, you can look at this, watching this contact cement sit there. So when I'm done with this, because it looks like I am actually going to be done, I'm going to put a couple of paper towels out, and I'm going to show how the display is going to work, because I'm going to display it with the fuselage off of the fuselage. What I mean is this goes onto the bottom of the fuselage, but the bottom of the fuselage shows a lot of detail, and I want it to show, right? And I can't show it if it's covered, so I'm going to leave it uncovered. So it won't be an intact airplane. No, it can't be in the box anymore. Because, well, maybe, I guess it can be. But I'm going to abandon the box. And if I had kept my work surface clean, I'd be able to set it down without a problem. I made 2 New Year's resolutions. One is to keep my work surface clean, and I've been batting about 65% on that. It has been better than it was before the New Year's resolution, but I have to say it's not been great. Like right now, it's cluttered. And most of the paints that are out were paints that I was using for my Ulset Ralph Maxi figure. Lots of greens and some metallics and things that I am going to leave out because I'm going to be using them again. The other paints that are out are the paints that are going to be used for the Porco Rosso minifig. And I'm going to just set that here. There, I'll set it so it's in the way. The it hasn't fallen off. That's pretty good. The question is, what do I do next after this is assembled, which will be happening yet during this stream. later than sooner, because I'm still procrastinating a bit, is I can work on the old Seth Ralph maxi figure. I can start painting the minifig. I can't work on the Apollo because I haven't printed out the control panel stickers yet. That's still unfinished. I need, absolutely positively need to finish that sooner, sometime. See that? The wing is attached, looking like an airplane now. How does this dust get on everything all the time? I bet it's coming off the paper towels themselves. Okay. And then so it's attached and you can see there's openings here and here. Okay. That's where the engine goes. So as this is just sitting here, being winged, you can also see this is why I put the canopy and the gun sight in before I attach the wing. You can now see why. And the why is because I couldn't get to them if the wing was attached. So I'm going to get the done box. I do that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Good job, camera person. You anticipated what I needed. I can tell this is the done box. Oh, there's cool stuff in here. This is the cart. I'll show the cart. This cart holds when it's on land. Okay, this is a seaplane. When it's on land, it has no wheels, right? So they have to lift it up and set it on this cart. This is the inside of the fuselage, and you can see there's a lot of detail there that I can show off. And then it goes on the cart like that. Okay, and then this goes on top of that. It's on there. But for display purposes, I'm not going to put this on top of that, because if you put this on top of that, you can't see any of this. And then what would be the point of having done all of that if it's just covered up, right? There wouldn't be any point to it. So for display purposes, it's going to be really that. I'll show you that in a minute. It's really kind of amusingly dumb. So for display purposes, it'll be kind of like that. Okay. With the open fuselage here, so one can admire all the detail of the interior. This is a little Porco Rosso guy who sits in there. He comes out, so you can even see more detail inside the canopy. Okay. And so, you can see that and this. This is the engine that goes on here. These engine covers, they go like this. Turned around, I'm not sure. And they are detachable as well, because you can see that they cover up. They nicely, I'm not left-handed, and so my ability to manipulate things with my left hand is even more limited than if I use my dominant hand. See, it covers up, well, here. See, there's really cool detail. Zoom in on that. Detail on the engine. And so when these are on, it covers it all up. And so for display purposes, I'm not going to attach these. Put this one on first. It's got little tabs. Here, how it goes on. So I'm just going to leave these on probably. But for display purposes, it would make sense, actually, the propeller even turns, to take those off. And then there's this little hatch here, this tiny little hatch. This is where you access. If you put this on here, you can see it's right over the machine guns. That's like the loading bay where one puts the ammunition. And it's supposed to just set in place. The thing I went really seriously is the wheel fell off the cart. The cart is something I did a million years ago. Yeah, the hatch fits better if it's oriented in the correct direction. So I'm going to leave the hatch on for display. There's no real reason to not have it on if this isn't attached to the bottom part anyway. Why is there a white spot there? Just dirt and dust everywhere. Yeah, it goes on this way. There's little tabs here and indentations on this that match. And it doesn't quite fit, of course. Yeah, right. So it comes right down to it, and then the stupid little hatch doesn't fit. Oh, I should have tested this ages ago. I don't know why not. It's like a little bit too big. But there. So it's going to look like this. And this is going to look like this. And this is going to go up here like that. Just like that. So you can see that. And then these come off so you can see the engine. Okay, well, I'm just going to stick the wheel back on. And then, well, here, since I'm doing contact cement, I might as well put cement on those spots too, right? Excuse me. I've cluttered things up pretty well here. Oh, I can't believe this. This stupid little hatch doesn't fit exactly. I thought for sure I test fitted this at some point. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Maybe I'll leave it off since I can't actually manipulate it with my fingers. I can't tell why it doesn't fit. Okay. Yeah, let's just cement the cement on these things before I start getting, agitated and then make a mess of something. I don't want to do that. This weirdly has the same sort of thing where there's a slot. Come down, you can look at it. There's 3 round holes. and then there's a slot. So I guess that's designed so that you don't put the engine on backward. You'd think, well, how could you put the engine on backward? Why would you do that? Well, actually, now that I said it out loud, it almost, you could do that without being too silly about it, because there are planes that are pusher planes where the propeller is in the back instead of the front. The original airplane, the Wright brothers flyer, actually was that. The propellers were in the back, pushing air back, and they were not in the front of the plane, which is the configuration that you see most often. You don't see too many pusher planes, they call them, because in a sense, the propellers are pushing the plane forward as opposed to pulling it. The Wright flyers were like that. But also there was a gigantic bomber, the B-36, called Peacemaker. Okay. They used, yeah, the Peacemaker. It was designed to carry 2 thermonuclear weapons, which at the time were huge in size. So yeah, when you're carrying 2 multi-megaton thermonuclear devices on your plane, of course you're going to call it the Peacemaker. Duh. But it had pusher. It had pusher propellers. There were, in fact, 6 of them. And they were some of the largest, most complicated piston engines ever made. They're, you know, so the B-36 was a pretty amazing thing. It was just huge, gigantic plane, which it needed to be in order to carry these thermonuclear weapons, which were the size of I don't know what would be, because they had mock-ups of them at the Museum of the Air Force in Dayton, where they have a B-36 that takes up the entire hangar, and then they have a dozen other planes underneath the wing, basically for display. So I just have no idea what I can do about this. It's just really silly. This silly little hatch, right? Like, why is it even a hatch? Why did they make it like this so it's separate? It doesn't really fit. And I tested this before. I mean, several times I tested the fit, and because you always do that, but it just doesn't fit. So there it is. It's slightly open because it doesn't quite fit. Wait a because it's not setting on there right. There's a little bit of a lip there and a little bit of a ridge there, and it's supposed to go like over it. And the way it's been working is that it has been going like adjacent to it instead of over it. Don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. Touch. What am I doing? Okay, I'm just going to leave it alone because it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to stick this on. And now that it is stuck on, there's the plane. The plane. Zoom out, camera person. There it is. Okay, you can look at it right from the front, and you can see the machine gun ports. Okay, you can see the primitive gun sight that goes through the windscreen. That little rod. You can see that I managed to bump this again and practically knock it off. Really, that little part is a bane of existence. And now it's even harder to get to because there's a wing in the way. Isn't even in the right place anymore. It's like the fourth time I'm trying to get this to actually be where it's supposed to be. Wow. And I used to be able to get my fingers on it. I don't know how I managed to smash it that time, but I did. I managed to smash it and knock it off. That one stupid little thing, the airspeed indicator propeller, has turned out to be like the most difficult bit of this entire model. Okay. So there goes the hatch. Oh yeah, I need to put the wheel back on again. I think this is the third time I'm putting this wheel on, to be honest. Right, I'm going to clean up here because otherwise I'm going to have a disaster of some sort for sure. Why not have a disaster? But there is that. I'm going to put this back on the cart with the barely attached wheel. And what we have here is the Savoia S.21. I mean, it is what it is. It is it. It is done. This can go on here like that. Okay. And then it looks like a complete airplane. But I'm not going to display it that way because of all the detail on the interior of the canopy, which would be wasted if it's covered. So this way you can see both the outside and the inside. And what to do about that hatch. I'm really annoyed by that. I am annoyed by the hatch. I am tempted. And I'm actually really tempted to shave off a little bit of the back of the hatch here so that it sets correctly on the fuselage. Or I could try to push it down I just did that. I just pushed it down, and then it went. I don't know why I didn't do that before. There. Okay, I'm going to leave it now. Yep, there it is. There's a Savoia S.21. And I've got, what, like an hour left in the stream? Maybe a little more? Yeah. That's kind of a shock. I knew there wasn't that much that needed to be done, but I wasn't sure how it would go, especially unveiling the canopy, which turned out okay. I mean, the masking and the painting actually turned out okay. And I know the stupid little airspeed indicator thing is probably going to come off again. Right. So that catches on more or less. That's good. That's as good as it's been. Um, yeah, it's I don't know what to say. Sometimes things just get done. They get finished, and then there you are. There you are, left with a finished model. And I have to say that I think I accomplished an A minus. I think it's a solid A minus. There's a couple of little flaws, tiny little specks, a little bit under here, a tiny white red spot on some of the white. But the flaws they're really pretty minimal, and no one will notice them unless you know that they're there and you're looking for them. The main issue I've got is that there's just dust all over it, and not much I can do about that. There, let me see if I can move this camera around and show it. It looks orange on my monitor. I don't know how it looks on yours. Fancy camera work going here, huh? Mm. And now I need to put it somewhere somehow. My done box. It seriously is not adhering. My done box isn't big enough for it now that it's put together. I'm going to see if I have another container that I can use. I'll be right back. Okay, that just there we go. This box. I'm not advertising this coffee. I'm just using the box from it. Well, having celebrated the completion of the Savoia, it's going to go away now. It's going to go in this box, and it'll be gone in the box. It's in the box. Here we go. And it fits a little bit too tall. That's an issue. And I can put that in there, and I can put some paper towels over it. I've got these now. They've just been sitting around, keeping dust off of things not terribly well. There we go. It's gone. It's done. Okay. I'm going to now write some messages on it. Do not push down. Handwriting, because it comes up a little higher than than the box top. There. A model has been completed on this stream. It turned out okay. Now over there. And I've got an empty box that says done on it that I can now use for other parts that are done for something else, I guess. And I've got 4 things. I have a choice of 4 things to work on. I can just spend, 5. Among the many things I could do with the rest of the time on this stream are 1, I could just end it and go upstairs, have something to eat, celebrate the completion of the Savoia, maybe take a nap or something. That would be a thing to do at my age, just do napping. I don't need these bits. I should put these bits in the box. I'm going to do that. 6 things. One of the things I could do is I've got these spare little bits from the model. And what I can do with them is I can put them back in the box. The my Savoia ended up looking pretty close to that. I think it came out really, really close to, that's really the only photo of the model got in the interior of the balloons. So here's the box. I've got all the sprue. I've got the decals I didn't use because I used paint instead. I've got these little bits, and I'm going to keep the container. I don't need the little bits. I'm just dump them in here. This is good for little parts that could get lost otherwise. So yeah, it's plastic sprue, and I don't know why I didn't throw it away. It's one of those things, here, one or more of these decals I'm actually going to use. This is the little minifig that came with the model, and it goes on this stand like that, okay? And there are decals that say Porco Rosso, and I'm guessing that says Porco Rosso in Japanese, is that one or more of these can go on the stand. Once the stand is painted. I haven't even primed it yet. I can do that. I can prime the stand, and it'll get painted something. And then Porco Rosso stands on here like that. And I think I'll use this decal, the red one. This one's kind of okay, but I don't like the way it's on the plane. I don't like that particularly. I think this is pretty nice. I'm not sure if I want to use the Japanese one or not. So I need to, at some point, I'll need to prime this. I'll probably forget about it until way much time has passed. So what I was going to do to waste some more time, among the many things I can do with the rest of the stream today, is not lose this by not putting it away, which I just almost did. Not that I almost just put it away. I did put it away, but I almost just lost it. Is I can explain why this is still in here. It's remember, some of you might remember the old like text-based video games, or the really early ones, like even Monkey Island or King's Quest, things like that. Is that whenever there was an object, whenever there was any object that you could interact with and pick it up, you picked it up. Because almost inevitably, there was like one or two exceptions. They did one exception in Monkey Island, which was really an annoying but somewhat funny joke that, if I remember, I'll come back around to. You always pick up any object that's pick upable, because it's going to be the key to a puzzle later on. So you never throw anything away, and you never let anything go. And this is kind of like that. It's like, well, you never know. Okay. You just never know when you might need a piece of red plastic with this diameter and this length. You never know when you might need that. And so you keep the junk. That's pretty stupid, really. I mean, I'm just never going to need that. Or this. You never know when you might need an oddly shaped piece of clear plastic just like this, with kind of bizarre little markings on it. P3 or P8. Yeah, that's the part number. You never know when you might need that, and so there it is. Or here, there's an extra bushing. that little black thing there. It's an extra bushing for the inside of the propeller. There's no way you can ever get that back in without disassembling so much stuff. The propeller on the engine goes into that, and that's what allows it to turn. And the modeler, they gave us two of those because they're so tiny that they expected one to lose one. I didn't. That was kind of surprising, really. I didn't lose it. But yeah, so now I'm going to use this decal, so I should keep that. But yeah, otherwise this is just trash, and I haven't thrown it away. The instructions are, I'm sure this is interesting, because this, I haven't yet, but I should probably translate it. But this is probably the story of the Savoia S.21. It's all written in Japanese. But it shows the different iterations of the plane. And then probably talks about the model. I think, this is 1929, it says. It says this is what, 1920. I'm guessing that's what this is. That it probably talks. I really need to translate this. Google Translate kind of works, I guess. And I should see what it says about the plane. This is kind of an interesting model. Porco Rosso was Italian. Okay, his plane was Italian. It's got the green and white and red striping on it. The Savoia S.21 was an Italian plane. And it even says this in Italian. It's an idroplano da caccia sperimentale. Okay, and the box top is in Italian. But the model itself was made in Japan, and so everything inside is Japanese. But it would be, that's something I haven't done yet, which is to use the Translate program on the box. Maybe I'll take the box upstairs so I'll remember to do that. This is important. This is a color chart translation. Okay, it was like I had to decode it from the Japanese to the Tamiya colors, and sometimes it's substituting a Viejo for the Tamiyas, especially the metallics. Oh, duh! I'm doing dumb one here. I still need these because of this. Here, this is this, and this is the color chart. You can see it's in Japanese, okay, but this was kind of fun. It's they're numbered, okay, 44, 33, 51, okay, and there's numbers down here, which are C because of the brand of paint that was used as the basis for the color chart, but it translates it here and here to two different manufacturers. I was going, this is a real problem, okay? 62, what is that? What is this? Okay. But I recognize these numbers here, these X numbers, these are Tamiya numbers, and in fact that translates to Tamiya. So I was able to go from like 62 across to XF2, and I could then look up the Tamiya colors, and XF2 is gloss black, okay? Which is isn't what it is. Pointing to things that are white. Why is 62 black instead of now I just got myself confused. Oh, duh, yeah. Two is white. Except it's supposed to be flat white. There it is. Duh. 62, not 2, 62 translates to XF2, which is white, which is the Tamiya white, which is not a glossy white. Okay, well, that was not very impressive, was it? So I need these for the minifig. So I keep this together. I don't bother taking this upstairs at the moment. Running out of space to clutter here. So one of the things I could do is just rattle on for a while until the time is up, and not really do anything at all. Another thing I can do is I can work on the minifig. Eventually that should be done. The third thing I could do is continue to work on this, which I'm not going to do because I need some advice about where certain colors need to go. So I should take this upstairs with me if I remember to do that, so I can get some advice about, where the metal is and where the leather is. It's not altogether clear all the time. And some advice about what to do with the face because it looks really flat. The another thing I could do is show you what I'm going to work on next. part of, if I get the Apollo instrument panel stickers done, I can finish the Apollo. But the model I'm going to work on next is this, which is a model of the Lotus Ford that won the 1965 Indianapolis 500, driven by Jim Clark. And the cars back then were these rear engine cars. This is a Formula One car, basically. A Formula One car that was repurposed and brought over for oval racing in the U.S. Right? They did some modifications to the suspension and I think tuned the engine differently because the rules are different for the engines in Formula One and IndyCar racing. But these very light rear engine cars replaced fairly heavy, often Hauser powered cars. Often Hauser engines were pretty neat. They were 4-cylinder engines, but the cylinders were like the size of a bucket that you would use, like kids use on the beach. I mean, gigantic. So it was kind of a low RPM, gigantic cylinder, rumbling kind of engine. And this was a V8 running at high RPMs, not as high as they are now. You know, like Formula One engines run at 19,000 RPM. I think this was more like 9 to 11. And it made a high-pitched whine, which is really distinct. Anyway, this one, it was extremely famous. It's the original now is in the Ford Museum, the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. And I have some pictures of it that I took when I was there, because the model is not a faithful reproduction of the original car at all in many ways. And so when I'm building this, I'm going to do my best to make it look more like the real car as opposed to just the model, even though it's a pretty nice model. One of the things, here I'll show you some of these. One of the things that stands out immediately is the exhaust. Okay, that is not chrome. Okay, the model just goes way overboard in terms of chroming parts. There's this huge number of chromed parts, and nothing on the original was chromed. Why would you chrome a race car, right? But this can't be that color. It has to be yellow. And then the interior, you can see the seat here. Okay. And a little bit here. The seat in the interior is not green with a yellow stripe. Definitely not. It is this kind of brownish, reddish brown leather. And you can look at the suspension even in this. Okay, I took this a long time ago. I was planning to build this model like 15 years ago or something. So I took this a long, long time ago. And you can see that this is like not even stainless steel. This is steel and aluminum. The roll bar, wow, look at that. I hadn't even noticed that before. The roll bar is actually black. Yeah, here it's bright chrome. But I'm looking at this here, and the roll bar there is actually black. And the interior of this whole thing is modeled. You'll see it when I open it. It's modeled in this kind of green color. I'll actually paint it British Racing green rather than leaving the bare plastic. The interior is just bare aluminum. I think it's made out of aluminum. And so just like with the Savoia, where I paint the interior, I'll be painting the interior of this aluminum color, maybe duraluminum, to match what the original is, because a lot of it is exposed on the inside. The Yeah. And you can see here again, the roll bar is black. So almost all of the chrome parts, the chrome plastic parts, are going to be primed and repainted, either yellow or black or aluminum, to match the original, rather than have it just be this shiny stuff. They made a really nice shiny model, but the original is not a shiny thing. I have to take a look at the wheels. There, this is a good picture of the wheels. You could see definitely not chrome, right? Definitely not chromed. These are magnesium wheels, and I'll paint them that. The interior of it, right up to here, is a darker color than the rim. Okay, it's a multi-piece wheel. And if you look online at some photos that were done at the time of the race, it looks even darker than this. But I could use like dark aluminum for that, and then lighter aluminum for the rest of it. So yeah, I'm going to be not almost, in the gas cap covers and things like that. They're not. They're kind of shiny, but they're not chromed. So this is what I'll be working on next. And then the instrument panel it looks like it was made out of wood, and the instruments themselves have a silvery bezel with black interior. I'll do my best to try to make that look authentic. Here, you can see here too, to some extent, that like the suspension is not bright chrome. If I recall correctly, this decal is not too badly done. I thought about trying to paint this, but the problem is there's a big 82 on it, and then there's these letterings on it. So I'm probably going to use the decal for the stripe. Whoever built this did an amazing job. The people who make these models, for the display on the cover of the boxes, just go, how do they do that? I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. I never realized that, but the roll bar is, for some reason, is black. I don't know why that would be, because usually it's just like the bare metal. Anyway, these are, that I said one of my New Year's resolutions was to not use that word, and I did it twice already in the last hour. The other was to keep the work surface clear, and I haven't really done that. So this is what I'm going to be doing next. When I bought the kit, for some reason these decals came with it. There's usually aftermarket decals. These were just a gift, and they're all the advertising on the side of the car. This part here, they don't. Not exactly right though. Okay, like when I'm looking at this, you can see it's not right. I have to see what it is inside the kit. But this is Bell and this is Enco, and there's no stripe. I have to see what they did on the inside of the model. What the decals that came with the kit. Usually when they do an aftermarket decal thing like this, it's to make it look more authentic, but it isn't. I don't know. I'm not sure what this is about. But I'm glad I took those pictures. And there are some others that are online that were taken, at the time of the race, that pictures that I'll probably reference to try to get the colors right. But I don't know why they would make aftermarket decals that were not historically accurate. And I don't think that the Henry Ford Museum would have, made it historically inaccurate. I don't think they would have. So I'll see what's in the kit when I open that. Oh, weird. Okay, but then I look at this, okay, here. This is exactly what the decals look like. Now I'm really confused. I mean, I took these pictures because this has the Enco with the tiger and all of these little things. This is exactly like the decals that came in the aftermarket. And they're not the same. But I took these pictures all at the same time. I am baffled. I am actually seriously baffled by what is happening here. Did I take these pictures at different years? Because look, this is like the decal that came, the aftermarket decal, and it isn't the same as that. And that's essentially the same angle. Well, I don't know what to make of that. I am seriously confused by that situation. But one of the things I could have done with the time that I'm now wasting is, talked about what I'm going to be working on next. I could also then pull out the Apollo and show you the situation with the control panel and why that hasn't been completed yet while I'm waiting to get the control panel done. But I'm probably not going to do that. I could open this. This has turned out actually now to be an expensive model. Still sealed like this. The last time I looked on eBay, it was like $50-$60 or something, which is okay. It used to be $3.77, which tells you that it's pretty old. And then it went on sale for $10.50. I don't know how much I paid for it. Probably like $15 or something. But this is a factory sealed original famous Ford's model reissue, I think, from the early 90s, maybe. I don't know. I just get more and more confused by some of this as I'm looking at it. But yeah, the last time I looked, there's still some for sale. So by opening this, okay, I'll have like wiped out a third of the value of the kit because it's not sealed in plastic anymore. And by building it, I will have wiped out 100% of the value of the kit. But then what's the point of just having a box laying around unless I want someone to inherit it and try to sell it on eBay again? And there's more than enough models here that I haven't gotten around to building to do that. But I want to build this. I think I need to do that. Well, the other thing I can do on Friday, I'll be open. I think maybe next week I'll start on that. I still got a half hour left. So Porco. Why not work on the Porco Rosso model guy thing here? So I'm just looking at this in terms of the order of things. I think I'm going to paint the white first, the scarf and the edges of the shirt and the gloves. What's 51? 51 is flat flesh. Yeah, his what color is his face supposed to be? 33. Mustache is black. Got that. Goggles are glossy black. Got that. His helmet thing is khaki. The rims of the goggles, blue. The lens of the goggle is medium blue. Three black. No, the goggles, the strap and the rim is black, and the lenses are medium blue. I'm reading it out loud to myself, I guess. Why not? That's white. This little button. He's got a little gold button. Seriously, they even detailed that on the flap of his jacket. His belt is black. His belt buckle is gold. Cool. They don't tell you what color to paint his face. That's pretty funny. Okay, I have to try to decide what order. I think I'll paint the white first, and then kind of paint up to it, the flesh part. This whole, almost all of him. Then like the detail of the belt. His deck tan. That's right. Deck tan is the color of almost all of him. And I think the way I'll do this is I'm gonna paint the belt, which is really hard to get to, before I paint the rest of it khaki or deck tan, excuse me. Because there's no way I'm going to get the black paint in there without getting it onto the surfaces around it. I'm going to kind of save his face maybe until a little bit later. Because I want to make sure I'm not going to work on that today because as I get near the last half hour or 45 minutes of a stream like this, it is extremely likely, it becomes extremely likely that I'll just mess things up. Just, it is. I, lose my I lose my coordination. Trying to decide which brush to use here. This might be a good one. I don't want it to be too small. I don't know why this has gotten so stiff. I think there's paint buildup in here that I need to clean out. Otherwise, this would be a pretty decent brush. For the white paint, the white might end up using multiple coats. And a really stiff brush like this will be a problem. I'm going to try. I know it sounds like I'm just procrastinating more, but maybe I am. Your high strength lacquer thinner. This is a pretty serious solvent here. I want to see if I can. Should have worn gloves if I did that, but I didn't. See what's in here. See if I can get these bristles to be less stiff. Yeah, look. Yeah, that's paint buildup in the bristles. I really need to give these. Wow, look at that! These brushes are really good deep cleaning using this stuff, lacquer thinner instead of just isopropyl alcohol. It is removing a good deal of paint, which is it's good to remove it too, because sometimes the paint dissolves in the paint. Especially if I was painting white, whatever this is could be. So when I was like a teen or a preteen even, and building models routinely because it's what I did. I didn't have a social life particularly much, and I'd hide in the basement and just build models. Kind of, it's what geeky kids did. Hi, who? I will do a flip. You missed it. You'll have to look back. You'll have to review this episode, and see the completion of the Savoia, which is now in a box over there. Wow, this is really filthy. This brush. Not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking filthy. I'm just trying to clean this brush, which is really gross. So the paints we had then were, and more is still coming out. Were testers enamels, and they were not water soluble. Could not clean them that way at all. And so I forget what I used. I think I did use something like lacquer thinner to clean them. And I remembered that not only is there progress, there's completion. Yeah. Now I have a highly volatile liquid here in this jar. I'm swishing it down like this. Why am I doing this? Well, I watched the Bob Ross thing a couple of times, 2 episodes, and I guess he must know what he's doing because he's got a show that actually paid him, unlike this where I do a show and I don't get paid. And when he cleans his brush, you don't see what he's doing, but you hear. You probably can't hear that to the microphone. Software gets rid of the sounds, but I'm swishing it in there and it makes a swishy noise. And when he cleaned his brushes, it made a swishy noise. And he just did that and wiped them in a rag, and they were clean. Right? I have no idea how that worked because that doesn't seem to be the way this works. But yeah, I'm going to cap this up before I pass out for fumes. But the brush, you can just look at all of this. All of this and all of this came off of this brush, which explains why the bristles were stiff. Yeah, and a lot of these brushes are in kind of that situation too, where I was just cleaning them using just water. And that turned out to be inadequate. Yes, the Savoia is done. It really is done. Just done. It's, as I said, it's a solid A minus. It did a really good job on it. There's just a couple of flaws that, unless you know where they are and look for them, you wouldn't know they were there. And there's one part that keeps falling off. We'll see when I unbox it. I'm going to celebrate by flipping a sear. No sear. Sear. No sear. No sear. Oh, that was kind of a tip. There you go. Sear. What is it? 2-2? 3-2. Tied. Random works again. Yay, probabilities. Pretty cool having probabilities work. No, I hope this paint is still good enough. Well, this paint and solvent. This is, I really need, I hope this works. It's really a mess. I do have, this is a Tamiya paint, and I have authentic Tamiya thinner. So if this doesn't work, I can thin it down a little. This is pretty much all I'm going to get done today, is getting the white on. That might need 2 coats. I don't know. You can't see it or hear it, but, show it to you. Camera person, show them what's going on. There's a thing there. And it vibrates. And you can't hear it. It's too bad. It makes a buzzing noise. And it's like one of those paint stirrers that you get when you go to a hardware store and buy paint. It's kind of like that. It's supposed to be much more effective than shaking by hand. And so, that's what I'm doing. Is this paint had very badly settled in the bottom of the bottle, and so I'm giving it a good mixing. Hopefully it'll work. Yeah, it's not vibrating that much though. Sometimes when that thing is running, you get this wonderful wavy effect. Let's see if I I can get it. There we go. You have to run it at low RPM, and then it vibrates the camera and does that. Yeah, and enjoy that. Well, let's see what we got. Hopefully, what I've got there in the bottom of this jar is, it looks like it, usable paint. So this is kind of shocking. There's going to be some painting, maybe not relaxing, but at least painting on relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. And I'm going to go over the edges to just assure that they're covered, because I'll be using a darker color and painting up to them when I put the next layers of paint on. And this is a technique that I'm not saying it's good or not, it's what I do, and sometimes it works. The best way is to be really highly skilled and apply paint only right up to the very, very edge of where you want the paint. You have a nice, clean demarcation line. And then when you get the next color out, you paint it right on up to that so that there's no gaps and the demarcation line is beautiful. And if you can pull that off, good for you. But that's not something I can do. Is that? I don't know what that is. I can tell if that's a lump in the paint. No, that's the way the plastic is. It wouldn't hurt if this was a little thinner, the paint. I don't know if I'm going to need a second coat on this or not. Guess I will find out when it dries. I have to stop over brushing it because it can sometimes just pull the other paint off. What I meant to say was that if I keep over painting a place that's painted but not dry, it can sometimes just pull the paint off, and then it's texturally a disaster. Well, it's good to see you, Who. Ole Brager's back, and I'm really glad he showed up. It turned out that he got a new job and hasn't been able to watch all the time that this wasn't on. So that was kind of a good coincidence that he wasn't watching while this wasn't happening. Because if he was, you wouldn't have seen anything. Of course, sometimes, you can say that if you are watching this while something is happening, it's probably better that it hadn't been happening because I don't know if it's very entertaining or not. I hope this minifig comes out okay. I've been getting better at painting these minifigs since I've been painting a bunch of them for our Dungeons and Dragons show. As I've been painting these, I'm not very good at like shading and stuff. Highlighting and detailing and shading, and I've been told that my minifigs look kind of cartoonish. In this case, that's a good thing because Porco Rosso is in fact a cartoon. And so if this minifig comes out looking kind of cartoonish, like a hand-painted animation, for example, that would be appropriate. So my skill level and technique for this one minifig might actually be a good thing. Otherwise, it's really not, because they tend to look, well, they're not, well, wow, I just made a mess. You had way too much paint on the brush. Fortunately, it's going to be painted over with another color, but still, that was sloppy. I was very sloppy there. When I do the next colors, I'll be using a much finer brush and being much more careful. That's the intent anyway, is for it to be better. So yeah, if Porco Rosso comes out looking cartoonish, it will be absolutely correct because Porco Rosso is a cartoon. And so it looking cartoonish will be quite appropriate. The other thing in this, it's not always intentional, is sometimes like putting on the first color like this and going over the lines like I'm doing here is helpful when doing the next colors, because it's a little, it makes the demarcation lines a little bit easier to see. It really does. And like there, like right there. There's a line that was not really obvious until I overpainted it, and now it's very clear where the white should be and where the next color should be. Okay, so I think I got the scarf. It's hard to see it. You can see it's depending on how the light, you can see the white is much whiter than the white primer. Yeah, I don't, not sure it needs a second coat, but if it does, I will be doing that on Friday. And then this is getting, no, it's still holding up. I guess I don't need to replace this paint yet. Not quite yet, anyway. Okay, I'm going to wash this out in the water. Well, what I was rambling on about before is that when I built models as a kid and the, early on, I never painted anything. You see, my airplane model, it was molded in silver gray really. Um, it had some decals and that sort of thing, and just slapped it together. It did, like, just in a couple hours, would build a whole airplane model, put the decals on, and there it was. It had the shape of an airplane, and it looked like a 10-year-old had put together a plastic model, because that's what it was. It was a 10-year-old who put together a plastic model. And later on, I got some black paint and some silver paint, to paint the wheels black. That was good. And silver for like the landing gear. Didn't paint the fuselage. Never on any of the models ever did that. I never got that sophisticated. But it was testers enamels, and they are not water soluble. And so the brushes had to be cleaned, and I think we used lacquer thinner. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I know it wasn't isopropyl alcohol. And then there sometimes I remember doing this. You just leave the brushes in the jar overnight, trying to dissolve the paint out of them. Well, I still have a little bit of time left. I'm going to paint the belt. The belt is painted black, not shiny black, but flat black. The model color is the flat black. This is actually kind of embarrassing. There's two Viejo blacks. One is glossy, and one is flat. And I've used them a million times, and I still can't remember which is which. Model is that. Here. Look what I did. I told myself which was which. What I'll probably do now, before that ink dries, is I'll probably get my thumb on it or something and just make a big smear. It'll just, what is that? Well, I don't know. It's just a green blob on the. So there is a question. Okay, I'm going to get the black paint out, but I'm not going to paint. I'm not going to paint the strap on the goggles. I'm going to save the head for later. but I'm going to paint the belt. So on the model that Porco Rosso, this one, the sitting down Porco Rosso, okay, I painted the boots glossy black, as opposed to flat black. And even though this says just to use black, not glossy black, the only glossy black are the lenses on the goggles. I thought it looked okay. I thought it looked pretty cool. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I probably just use the flat black on this, but the boot will have to wait because they're buried in the sticky goo here. And I'm just doing this because I've got a few minutes left and it has to be done anyway. But it needs the attention of a teeny tiny brush because it needs to go into this teeny tiny spot there. And even with this teeny tiny brush, it's going to go over the lines. So in some ways, just say this, I talked about this before, when I was little, and even later, I was, coloring, especially when I was little, I was really good at staying inside the lines. This was probably not a good thing in the long run. Okay. I mean, other kids were using weird colors and drawing pictures on top of the outlines in their coloring books. And I was just using the appropriate colors and staying inside the lines. And of course, the teachers and parents and things are saying, "Oh, you're doing a great job of staying inside the lines." And so what I learned is that stay inside the lines. That's the right thing to do. It's the correct thing. But it did not encourage creativity. I'll just say that. So I developed the ability and the attitude to just simply stay inside the lines. And so, for doing something like this, to the extent that my eye-hand coordination still supports it, is I am pretty good at getting like base coat colors in to these areas that should be that color. When it comes to things like shading and detailing, that requires some artistic skill and imagination, which I never developed because I just stayed inside the lines. That's my sad story and my excuse for why I am pretty good at making cartoonish looking minifigs, but not terribly good at making them look, all exciting and detailed. Yeah, I got that on the belt loop. So yeah, this is kind of messy, but I had to make sure that the areas of the belt that needed to be black were done. And when I very, very carefully do the belt loop later and paint around the belt there and around here, and there will be black where it needs to be black. So it looks like I'm being really careful, and I'm trying to be, but the result was, somewhat messy regardless. Regardless of the fact that I'm using a tiny little brush and trying to be careful. Well, see how it looks when the deck tan, there's a lot of deck tan here, pants, shirt, that's all one color. See that? It's all one color. I'll probably be working on that later. On Friday, I'll do the flesh tone on the arms. Okay. And then the deck tan on the whole uniform. So I'll be really careful going around the edges, for example, getting those nice and clean and looking edged nicely and getting the belt loops done right. Oh, geez. This belt on the back. Huh. Okay, wake up. If I'm going to be painting the belt, I should probably paint the rest of the belt. That was cleverly not well done. And I'll paint the flesh tone, and then I will paint the and I'll paint the uniform. And then what will be left is the head. Being hesitant here. What's happening is that it looks like the belt goes up against the gloves there. On this side, it's up against the arm. Let me get the boundary there. Getting this correct. Not the gloves, it's the sleeve. In fact, it's not really clear. Not really clear how that's supposed to be. I've gotten the belt right. It's going to require some touching up and probably use of the head magnifier to see how that goes. Hopefully I might have to scrape some of that black off to get the white to cover appropriately. I made a little bit of a mess, not being really clear where the belt is and where the rest of the minifig is. So it's I got black on where the white needs to be. So I'll mess around with that. I can do that after the rest of the uniform is done. Because there might be a situation where I got, the deck tan onto like here or there where I got it onto the white and it needs to be touched up. I'm putting a lot of black paint on here because I really can't see where the belt goes. That will require the attention of a head magnifier. Yeah, this is just being a little bit messy here, but that's how it works this time of the stream. All right, that's pretty much it for today. I am going to wrap things up by saying Dyson Dungeons thanks you for watching today. Be sure to catch our Dungeons and Dragons show because it is amazing. Streams on Twitch with a live chat on Sundays. And if you can't see that, then go to the YouTubes and watch it on the YouTubes and catch up on that and all our character development and everything else. Today was a success. I completed the Savoia, and I'm starting to work on the Porco Rosso minifig. And on Friday, I will continue to work on the minifig. And while I'm waiting for paint to dry on the boundary areas, which there will be, okay, especially when I start doing the face, I have to wait for some paint to dry before I do the next part of the face and that sort of thing. I'm not working on that now because it's late in the stream. Yeah, I'll be working on the Porco Rosso minifig, and then probably I'll be showing you what needs to be done with the Apollo command module display, and maybe over the weekend I might even work on trying to get that done, get the instrument panel done. And but I'll very likely on Friday be opening this vintage kit, which is now worth like $50 or something according to eBay, which once sold for $3.77 and then was on sale for $10.50 and now is worth more. I'm going to destroy the value of this kit by opening it and starting to work on it. So that'll be exciting to see. Thanks, everybody. I'll be back on Friday at more or less 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, U.S. time, and we'll be working on the minifig and the next kit, the Lotus Ford. See you then.